Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani Design PD-1661 Smurf. This watch is available from Pagani Design flagship store on AliExpress for €77. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with a piece. So the watch comes in this cardboard watch box. The watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel in the base, as one would expect. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping from any damage, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use a basic cardboard watch box, bearing in mind this is a low tier price point piece at only €77. With regards to the items, this is the owner's instruction manual. Clear, concise diagrams. The instructions are in English and they detail the operation of the movement used, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic. This is the plastic guarantee card. And as usual, the reverse isn't filled in. However, I'm pleased to report this PD-1661 is covered by the usual 12-month international guarantee. One also gets this flat-bladed screwdriver for resizing the 1.6mm screw pins in the bracelet. This is the plastic tag. And lastly, one also gets this Pagani Design branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Pagani Design PD-1661 Smurf. This is a new release from Pagani Design for 2022. Previously, they only made the Smurf in the PD-1639 version, which is the 43mm. This is the first time they have released a Smurf with a blue dial and blue bezel in a 40mm version, the PD-1661. So, we have a 40mm case diameter. We have a 48mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 12.8mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster-style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the flip-lock clasp. The flip-lock clasp is signed to a high standard with Pagani Design engraved, beautiful lustre to the 316L grade stainless steel, and that contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. Now, with regards to the clasp finishing, there is room for improvement with regards to the quality control and the finishing. As you can see, we have a slight dent there in the end of the clasp. It has sharp corners and this edge is very sharp. And also, looking at the edge, if you look at the chamfer, there's also a dent or mark in the edge, which marks the transition between the brushed satin finish to the body and the mirror polished flank. So there is room for improvement with regards to the clasp. I'll show you the interior. Solid milled 316L grade stainless steel matte bead blasted effect to the centre section of the body, and that contrasts with the mirror polished top side, underside and flanks. Now again, we have some QC issues because if you look at the hinge pin, there's significant lateral side-to-side play and up and down play in the hinge pin, so eventually that's going to break. And also if you look at the second hinge pin in the latch, you can see we have significant play in all directions. And again, this is going to put the hinge pin into shear and eventually it's going to break or come loose. So they need to tighten up the tolerances in the clasp because that's significant play on a brand new clasp and it's wholly unacceptable. Now I appreciate this is a low tier piece costing €77, but however they need to improve it. Now with regards to the EasyLink extension, on this one, as is sometimes the case, this one is very tight and it's actually difficult to deploy and difficult to snap back in. So I'm not going to demonstrate it because I don't want to force it and damage it. But I can tell you that again, this is wholly unacceptable. Yes, it's good they've used an EasyLink style extension to give 5mm of adjustment, but however, they need to improve the tolerances to make it a looser fit, because this takes excessive force to deploy and excessive force to snap back in. They are capable of doing it. For example, I've reviewed other PD-1661s and other models such as the 1662 and 1644. They use the same clasp and the EasyLink extension does deploy easily, but on this one it is very bad. So it's a shame that in 2022 they haven't improved the quality control, build quality and finishing on their clasps. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal. Now the negative is there is no AR coating, and again I'm disappointed with this because in 2022 I would like to see Pagani Design introduce AR coating across their collection. They have used it on the 1733, which is the Milgauss Homage, and also the 1692, which is the Explorer and Air King homages respectively. So at this price point they are capable of using clear AR coating, but as you can see this piece really needs it because it is highly reflective. There is a lot of glare and highly reflective nature to the silver applied indices and the silver mirror polished Mercedes handset. It's like a mirror, it's very reflective and shiny, and with a sunburst style it really does need AR coating. On a positive note, we do have a 2.5 times magnification Cyclops, and that works very well to magnify the date complication. The hands are well proportioned. The minute hand extends all the way to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring, and the second hand is also correctly proportioned because that also extends to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring. So the handset is correct, and the dial is actually very well finished. The sunburst blue is very aesthetically pleasing, and I like the way it changes from an electric blue to a royal blue depending on the light conditions. So with regards to the bezel, it's a ceramic bezel insert inlaid with white paint, and it is finished to a very high standard. The quality of the paint infill on the minute ticks and also the Arabic numerals is very good. Nice glossy finish to it, and there's a good colour tone match between the blue ceramic bezel and the blue sunburst dial. With regards to the finishing to the head of the piece, the brush satin finishing on the tops of the lugs is done well, and that contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. No sharp edges to the undercuts of the case, and the corners or the tips of the lugs aren't sharp. So the quality of the finishing to the head of the piece is excellent. Now with regards to the case back, I'll show you that. We have a screw down exhibition case back glazed with mineral crystal, and the screw down exhibition case back provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. Does a good job of displaying the NH35A. It's engraved with the reference number and the specification around the circumference to a high standard. The milled slots are well executed, no sharp edges, no burrs, and the circumference to the stainless steel portion is mirror polished, and that contrasts with the inner portion, which is concentric CNC lathe tool machined. Low profile case back, bearing in mind it houses the NH35A, and the flat mineral crystal is very comfortable to wear against the wrist for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. So credit where credit's due. Pagani Design do a very good job of their screw down exhibition case backs, and 100 meters is acceptable, bearing in mind it's an exhibition case back. If they used a solid stainless steel case back they could upgrade to 200 meters, but the benefit of using a mineral crystal glazed exhibition case back is that it is comfortable against the wrist, and of course it does display the movement. The solid end links are a good tight fit to the case, and the underside to the case is well finished with concentric CNC lathe tool machining to it. No sharp edges to the underside of the case, so it is very well finished, and the solid end links are also well executed. Right, so let's test the bezel execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect, scalloped finish to the stainless steel bezel. The bezel is well finished, they've done a good job of brush satin finishing it, no sharp edges to the teeth. Let's test the action. Now they have tightened up the bezel execution. This is noticeably tighter. It feels firmer in resistance than previous versions of the PD-1661 I have reviewed. I've reviewed several of these, and sometimes it's the case with the 1661 they have a loose bezel. There's not enough resistance in it and therefore excessive lateral side play and back play, but this one feels tighter. It actually feels tighter than a 5KX bezel. That's the amount of resistance, but not quite as tight as a Steinhardt Ocean 139. No lateral side play whatsoever, no back play whatsoever, so this is a pleasant surprise because often the 1661 suffers with lateral side play and back play. Let's check the alignment. Perfect. The Lume pip and triangle perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock triangle index on the dial and the white minute ticks on the chapter ring. So, credit where credit's due, Pagani Design have improved the quality of their bezel execution on this 2022 Smurf version. No lateral side play, no back play, and it feels firmer all the way through the 360 degrees rotation. It also feels even all the way through the 360 degrees rather than getting tighter and looser. So this is definitely an improved bezel execution, and I really like it. I like the firm resistance to it, I like the lack of play in it, and it's got a nice crisp feeling to each of the clicks. They're not as loud and audible as a Seiko 5KX bezel, but however they do have nice positive clicks and perfect alignment, so I'm very pleased with the bezel execution. With regards to the crown, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finished, Mirror polished Pagani design shield embossed with a matte bead blasted background to it, so very well machined. Let's test the screw down crown execution. Absolutely silky smooth. This is 10 out of 10 sublime screw down crown execution. Credit where credit's due. This is something that Pagani design consistently get correct across all their collection. Their screw down crowns are very well machined. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So, in the first position, it's the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the Seiko NH35A automatic to top it up to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. Absolute pleasure. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up, so it's very smooth to manually wind, and I really like it. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quickset date complication. So rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the quickset complication. The 2.5 times Cyclops magnification does a very good job of enlarging the date complication. Nice positive clicks to the 35A. I really like the quickset complication. It's an absolute pleasure to set the date. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the second hand, you can see I have now hacked the movement and stopped the second hand dead. So therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. Nice light resistance to the 35A, no backplay clockwise and anti-clockwise, it feels silky smooth, so it's an absolute pleasure to set the time. This is a characteristic of the 35A I particularly like, the lack of backplay. With low-grade movements such as the Miyota 8215, it's a characteristic of the 8215, there is significant backplay. When one rotates the crown, there isn't an immediate response with a minute hand, one has to take up the slack. But with the 35A, it doesn't have that characteristic backplay of the 8215, so it's a better quality movement. And I like the fact there's an immediate response, it feels tighter, but there's no friction in the gearing. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is outstanding, 10 out of 10 screw down crown execution. Now it's not as silky smooth as a Rolex trip lock used on the Submariner date, but however this is a €77 watch. We're not talking about a €10,000 piece, but however it is an outstanding screw down crown, and it's something I really like about Pagani design watches, including this 1661 Smurf. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, I've simply taken the watch out of the watch box, and I'm pleased to report it's got enough links to fit my 8-inch wrist. Now, I can in fact slide an index finger underneath the bracelet and clasp, so therefore this will fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist with no difficulties whatsoever. With regards to the taper, they've made the correct decision. 20 down to 16 is the industry standard, and it is the perfect taper for an oyster-style bracelet on a 40mm head of the piece. The proportions of this 1661 are perfection personified. 40mm head of the piece fits all wrist sizes, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. 48mm lug-to-lug measurement is again the perfect sweet spot for all wrist sizes. 6 to 7-inch or 7 to 8-inch wrist, the 48 lug-to-lug is perfect, it will fit you very well. So 40 by 48 is perfect, and 20 down to 16 taper is also perfect. The other thing I really like about the proportions is this is a low profile piece for an NH35A powered watch. It's only 12.8mm. So circa 13mm is the sweet spot for a watch to easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. At 12.8, needless to say, this will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff. They've made the correct decision by using a flat sapphire crystal rather than double domed. There's a slight lip or bevel on the edge of the sapphire crystal which catches the light. It projects just above the sloped ceramic bezel insert, so very aesthetically pleasing. And I love the way the blue sunburst dial changes colour from electric blue to royal blue. And it really does match the ceramic blue of the bezel insert very well. So it's just a shame they don't use clear AR coating, because as you can see the legibility is poor because it is highly reflective like a mirror, very shiny. If this had AR coating it would really enhance the piece. Feel good factor is good, it's a good homage to the Rolex Smurf Submariner dates, and it feels very well balanced. It's 152 grams. Now, as you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider circa 150 grams to be the sweet spot because it gives a nice feeling of quality and heft on wrist, but it feels balanced. It doesn't feel top heavy and uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. At 152 with all the links in the bracelet, this is very close to the 150 perfect sweet spot. So, well balanced piece, feel good factor is good, comfort level is good. It's just a very good looking piece. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, as usual, it's disappointing performance from Pagani Design. As with other PD-1661 models, it's disappointing in 2022 they still haven't upgraded the quality of the Lume used. This is clearly blue Luminova. We're not looking at BGW9, and also we're looking at the cost-cutting measure of 3 to 4 layers of Luminova versus 5 to 6, which is the industry standard. Now, on a positive note, the blue tone of Luminova matches well on the Lume pip in the ceramic bezel inserts, the applied indices and the Mercedes hands. There is enough area. The proportions of the applied indices are as per the Rolex Maxi dial used on the Submariner date, Smurf. So they've got the proportions of the indices and the proportions of the Mercedes hands correct. There is enough area for the Lume to be applied and enough depth to apply 5 to 6 layers inside the indices. So there's no excuse for using 3 to 4 layers of blue Luminova. It's a clear cost-cutting measure. And if this piece had BGW9 or C3 Super Luminova, it would really enhance the performance. Even if Pagani Design had to increase the retail price by 5 or even 10 euro per piece, collectors would happily pay for the additional BGW9 or C3 Super Luminova enhancement. Now, it is glowing for a reasonable length of time, as one would expect with 3 to 4 layers of Luminova, but it's nothing like as good as BGW9 Super Luminova, and it will continue to fade to nothing very quickly. So, disappointing performance on the Lume. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko NH35A automatic. Pagani Design used the Malaysian-made versions of the NH35A. Seiko make the NH35A in 2 plants. They have a plant in Japan and also a plant in Malaysia, and several of the low-tier Chinese brands use the Malaysian version, but there's no difference in quality between the Japanese-made and Malaysian-made 35As respectively. It has 24 joules, it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. Hand winding and hacking, which use for complications. 40-hour power reserve, which is perfectly acceptable. The stated accuracy of the 35A is -20 to +40 seconds per day, so a rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Pagani Design are well regulating the 35As they're using. This one is running consistently at +8 seconds per day, which is perfectly acceptable for a 35A. So reliable, well-proven workhorse movement. I like the reliability of it in particular. The quick-set complication is a pleasure to use. It's a pleasure to manually wind. No negatives to it whatsoever. And it's accurate enough. 8 seconds per day is good enough for a 35A. 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. It's a very durable movement, and it is the correct choice. And I'm pleased to see Pagani Design using the 35A versus a lower grade of movement, such as the 8215, which they switched back to using during the shortage. So, excellent movement, and I think it is a good choice. So, lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, €77 is the price point of this piece. Really, to evaluate it, one needs to study the quality of the finishing to the head of the piece and also the bracelet. So, the quality of the finishing to the head of the piece is excellent. The bezel is well finished, the head of the piece and the case back. However, we have got an excellent head of the piece on a poor quality bracelet. There is significant play in the end links, lateral side-to-side play, up and down play and longitudinal play. As you can see, 1 to 2 millimeters is unacceptable. And in every one of the screw pin links, we have significant play. Lateral side-to-side play, up and down play, and also longitudinal play. And as you can see, they even have gaps in between the centre link and the outer links, as you can see, so it rattles. I'll just check the other side for continuity, and as you can see, again we have lateral side-to-side play, up and down play and longitudinal play in the end links, and again there's a gap between the centre link and the outer links, and again all of the screw pin links have significant play, and they also have gaps between the centre links and the outer links. So the cumulative effect across the length of the bracelet is that there is significant play, and it rattles on wrist. and it's very irritating to have that rattling and squeaking sound. Now, on a positive note, it does articulate because of all the play. It means that there are no stiff links. It doesn't kink. But although it does have a beautiful luster to the top side of the bracelet, the brushed satin finishing is very nice, and also the mirror polishing is done to a good standard. It's just let down by the excessive play. So poor quality bracelet on an excellent head of the piece, and also there's room for improvement, as I've detailed. With the quality control and the finishing to the flip block clasp, it has sharp corners, sharp points, and we've also got marks and dents on it, so it really needs to be improved. There's too much play in the hinge pins, and the EasyLink style extension is too stiff to deploy and snap back in, so it's a poor quality clasp on a poor bracelet. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it? Well, difficult to appraise. What we've got is an excellent quality head of the piece on a poor quality bracelet, and overall I'm going to have to downgrade it and say it's good quality. I can't say it's excellent quality and excellent value, but what I will say, at €77, it is excellent value. It is worth buying for the excellent head of the piece. If you wear it on a rubber strap, NATO strap, or you change the bracelet and upgrade it. But the bracelet is poor quality, so excellent value at €77, good quality overall. Excellent head of the piece, poor quality bracelet. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Pagani design PD-1661 Smurf. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.